This strip of beach between Nelson Bay and Foster is a favourite playground for dolphins. Away from human eyes, they frolic in the water, and occasionally we humans have the chance to witness this remarkable sight. Around 200 dolphins were in this pod, wave jumping and skimming across the face of the ocean.
Teresa Price discovered last year that she's carrying the gene for ocular albinism. This genetic defect can be passed from mother to son, causing blindness. Teresa and her husband decided to have a second child, but she wanted to know if it had these genes.
First, initially, just to fully understand the recessive disorder that I carry, its implications for future children, really, the risks involved.
Researchers at the John Hunter Hospital took a sample of her placenta when it was 9 weeks old. The cells were sent to Philadelphia in the United States and analysed. She was told that her son didn't have the genes for ocular albinism.
The purpose of this unit is to provide up-to-date information to people who are concerned that they or their children are at increased risk of some genetic disorder.
The unit also specialises in research into cystic fibrosis, and it acts as a referral centre for other conditions. Jane Anderson, NBN News. In 19 Smith's wife, Chrissy, was told she had terminal cancer.
They had operated and done their diagnosis through biopsies, x-rays and physical operations, and had given her no hope, had given her 6 months and sent her home. So in that 6 months we grasped at anything we were able to.
The Smiths turned to Hans Butenhaus. Butenhaus is a qualified acupuncturist, but he's not a registered medical practitioner. He told the Smiths what he's told many cancer patients. About 4 months, he treated Chrissy with Eastern herbs and acupuncture.
Did he give you hope?
Yeah, he did. That's the only thing he gave us, but it was false hopes.
Although Hans Butenhaus said he had cured Chrissy, she died 8 weeks later. Christine Major's father also sought a cure from the Raymond Terrace acupuncturist. He'd been diagnosed with liver cancer in March last year. Christine says Butenhaus treated her father with acupuncture, herbal medicine and some sort of ray lamp.
He told him he was cured. He said that by looking into his irises that he could tell that the cancer was gone.
What was your father's condition at the time Dr. Butenhaus told him he was cured?
My father was very ill at this stage. He was having severe difficulty eating. He couldn't drive the car up to Raymond Terrace. My mother had to take him. He had lost a lot of weight. He was a very ill man at that stage. I've got no idea how Butenhaus could say that he was cured.
Christine's father died 6 weeks later. Under the Medical Practitioners Act, it's an offence for a person who's not a registered medical doctor to treat cancer. The penalty is a fine of up to $2,000 and/or a jail term of up to 2 years. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Police told a media conference today that they had made progress in establishing the victim's movements in the hours leading up to his death. He was last seen at the Bellevue Hotel on Newcastle's Hunter Street at about 2 o'clock on Tuesday morning.
He did consume alcohol. To how much we're not particularly sure of, but obviously was alcohol involved through the day and the night.
Simon McHugh's body was found floating in Cockle Creek near Barnsley by a passing motorist at about 6:30 on the same morning. He'd been bashed and had subsequently drowned. Police have no idea how he left the hotel or with whom. They have displayed the clothing he was wearing in the hope that it will be recognised. The victim's black tracksuit trousers and shoes are still missing.
We're asking for people who were in that area at that time who might have seen him or have any knowledge of him around between those times from say 2 o'clock onwards, would they contact us at the Toronto Police Station.
McHugh was well known around town as the director of a company which was trialling a parking voucher system. It's possible he may have been the target of a robbery gone wrong. It wouldn't have been the first time he was a victim of crime. Less than 2 weeks ago on May, McHugh filed a complaint with police that he'd been bashed and robbed. The attack took place in almost exactly the same location as where he was last seen on Tuesday morning. However, police have obtained McHugh's wallet. He apparently left it behind at the Bellevue Hotel, empty except for a credit card. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Averaging a try a game over 9 rounds of the Winfield Cup, including a pair in last weekend's debacle at Parramatta Stadium, hasn't been enough to save Ashley Gordon being dropped to reserve grade.
Yes, it is disappointing, especially a big game against East, but I'll have to put that behind me now and go and have a big one in reserve grade.
Can you figure out why you've been dropped?
No, I thought my form was okay, obviously not up to the standards of first grade. I'll just have to pick up my enthusiasm.
And that is the area cited by coach David Wade as the main reason for Gordon's stint in the seconds. Enthusiasm for the full 80 minutes during a game.
It's a mental thing, isn't it? I thought I was, but to me or to spectators it might not be. So I'll just have to put the head down and see how I go with that.
The Flash has copped it sweet and is out to get back into first grade as soon as possible. And according to Gordon, there's no rift between himself and Waite.
David and I get on fairly well, and that wouldn't be a factor in the selection, I wouldn't think.
While Gordon cools his heels, there will be a few of his former first grade mates looking over their shoulders at the selector's axe. Another loss and it could be wielded without fear or favour. The Roosters are sitting on top of the tree and although forced to make a couple of changes, are still a strong outfit. And East have their own hoodoo. They haven't beaten the Knights at Marathon Stadium. But if the Knights let Freeman loose, they could pay dearly. Everett Stevens and Michael Johnson opened well for the Falcons before Bruce Bolden steadied the ship and then combining with new boy Robert Rose to grab a 7-point quarter-time lead. Tragedy for the Falcons, losing Terry Dozier in the opening minute of the second period with an inflamed disc. But no sympathy from the Magic, Parkinson with 3, and then they lifted the tempo, Bolden to Rose for another 2. And then this. Ruled a tech foul for hanging on the rim, and the Magic were furious at Roger Shill's ruling. It didn't help the Falcons' cause. Rose inspirational to stretch the Magic's lead to 10 at the long break. Defences were on top in the third quarter, with the Falcons scoring 20 points for the term, while the Magic hit 22 to lead by 12. Then the locals got on a bit of a roll and closed the gap to only 4 points. Tempers erupted and feeling was running high. But the Magic rammed home to everyone and sundry that they are title contenders, Dorge and Bolden closing out the win and hanging on a second spot on the ladder.
The women left the house around 2 yesterday afternoon to go into town. While they were out, they saw smoke and rushed back to find it was their house on fire. The blaze quickly took hold in the old timber building and fire services were unable to bring it under control before the house was gutted. Fire officers also had to stop the flames from spreading to nearby properties. The women had been living in the house only 1 month. Today they could do little but sift through the ashes, looking for any belongings that survived the blaze. "23 teams from Armidale, Canberra, the Central and Mid-North Coast and Sydney were invited to the 25th Annual Carnival, making it the largest on record for the Tamworth Baseball Association. After 2 full days of play, the finalists fought it out in A, B and C divisions today. In this game, Canberra Senators in blue were up against Sydney's Westco Mets to determine the B division champions. Westco took out the final last year, while Canberra won the C division in 1991. In this year's C division, Tamworth was up against Newcastle's Athletics Club. The Tamworth players did well to even make it to the final, forming the team only on Friday afternoon when Hastings pulled out of the competition. And in the A division game, the New South Wales Country Under-18 side was up against Wentworthville. The Country team proved too strong, winning the game.
The bright sunshine and festive crowds at the fort were a far cry from the darkness and confusion which reigned 50 years ago when a passing Japanese submarine took potshots at the city. Thanks to the dedication of the Newcastle Region Maritime Museum and the local cadet regiments, one of the guns involved in the original exchange was again ready to fire. The event was the climax of a weekend of ceremony which included the granting of the freedom of the city yesterday to the 113 Field Artillery Battery. Part of the 7th Field Regiment, the battery is one of the oldest reserve units in Australia and was stationed at Fort Scratchley when the Japanese fired on the city. Today that event was vividly recalled. Deputy Mayor Frank Rigby and Bishop of Newcastle Alfred Holland addressed the gathering along with military and museum officials. Prayers for world peace were cut short as the original officer in charge of the Scratchley guns fired a memorial salvo on the dot of 2:26 p.m. Later, Major retired Wal Watson reflected that firing the guns was something of a novelty for him.
Well, it was quite a pleasure, really, especially since it's the only time in my life I've actually fired a gun. I usually give the orders, but this time I actually got to pull the trigger.
With the Newcastle Army Band playing suitably martial strains, the remaining 3 blank shots were fired off to close a chapter of the city's eventful past.
Oh, don't say that.
You are sweating, Betsy. You're nervous.
Two GLA was originally licensed as a community FM station in 1983, deriving its funding from sponsorship generated locally. All ran relatively smoothly for some time until the station took on what some people saw as a departure from its intended purpose.
They felt that the station were not catering for their needs in a large number of areas, including music, jazz, big band and the like.
A licence renewal hearing held by the tribunal a month ago came up with an agreement to be tried between the two warring factions.
The agreement says that what we would do is we'd hold an open membership drive, that we'd invite members of the Reform Group to become members of the company which holds the licence for the radio station, that we'd open it up also to our Breakfast Club members, that we'd reaffirm that the members that we had on already, well, we've done that so far. then what we would do is we'd have an extraordinary general meeting that the Board of Directors, current Board of Directors, would stand down, that there would then be an election for a Board of Directors, and that's due to happen in the very near future.
However, the 250-strong Reform Group has now told the Tribunal that it's withdrawing from that agreement.
We felt that the agreement was not being adhered to by the Board of Directors of the station to the letter and to the spirit of the agreement. And the agreement was that the board would stand down and a new board would be elected. And that is what we would like to see happen.
The two parties will meet before the Tribunal again next Wednesday. In the meanwhile, the station continues to operate without a licence, but with the Tribunal's consent until the matter of control is sorted out.
When 17-year-old John Hendrickson walks into the computer room at Belmont High School, he means business. John picked up a distinction in a national computer competition run through the school. Now he's been selected with two other students to represent Australia in an international competition in Germany in July.
That was a bit surprising, although I did feel reasonably confident with the answer I'd given, but it was quite surprising.
It's called the Olympiad in Informatics, the Computer Olympics, the best programmed minds in the world. John started with computers in primary school. He's had his own personal computer since he was 13. And his career ambitions? Well, you guessed it.
I plan on doing computer engineering at Newcastle Uni. From there on, we'll take things as they come.
Okay, you can't get the computer to work it out for you?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Stewards held an inquiry into the running of High Style after last Saturday's handicap at Tamworth races. They found jockey David Chapman, trainer and part owner Tim Martin, along with bookmaker and also part owner Keith Muller, guilty of not letting High Style run on its merits after it finished at the rear of the field. Chapman, Martin and Muller have all appealed against their disqualification and have been granted permission to work until the appeal date. The case will be heard by the Northern and North Western Districts Racing Association at Tamworth on June the 30th. After 4 straight losses, the Knights bounced back with a solid 10-0 win over competition leaders Eastern Suburbs at Marathon Stadium, while their opponents on Sunday, Western Suburbs, struggled before beating a determined Gold Coast outfit. And with the Winfield Cup ladder resembling a traffic jam at the top, a win would put the Knights in a healthy position to press for the top 5, while a loss will place them under some pressure. The coaching staff at Broadmeadow have indicated that attack will be the order of the day, with long breaks hopefully finished off better than against the Roosters. While the Newcastle Knights trip to Campbelltown to take on the Western Suburbs Magpies is fraught with danger, spare a thought for the Newcastle Falcons as they head to the Sydney Entertainment Centre to take on the Kings. Falcons' job has been made that much more difficult with the injury sustained by key men Paul Kuiper and defensive dynamo Terry Dozier, who would have had the role of stopping Man Mountain Dean Newtoff and scoring machine Dwayne McLean. Sydney are on a real streak with an 8-2 win-loss record and will start favourites to beat the Falcons, who are 4-5. But Coach Weisman will employ a run-and-gun style of play to try to outpace the bulky Sydney Kings. Solo racing has its origins in the Hunter, roaring into life in the late 20s. Most sports have their ups and downs, and over the summer months, the promoters of the Motordrome and the New South Wales body that controls speedway bikes have been at loggerheads. Now, after long negotiations, everything seems to be back on an even keel.
I'm happy to say that it looks like we've achieved it. They are going to run this week and over a couple more meetings during the winter, and everything going well, we should have the bikes running regularly in the summertime again.
And 25 nominations have been received, including Jack Stevens of Windella Downs, Shane Haggerty of Seaham, locals Neil Ashman and Darren Etheridge, Paul Slade of Wallabadar and Mark Unicum from Wingham. Also on Sunday's program, trialists in the unique streetcar enduro set down for the 18th of July.
There's been a lot of people trying to get in Speedway, but they're saying it's very expensive and very hard. So what we've done, we've introduced the streetcar enduro, which is basically an old bomb that's in the backyard. They've got to be pre-1972, they've got to be stock standard, and we've already got something like 40 odd entries in, and they're going to be scrutinised and doing a bit of practice on the Saturday, and they'll have a first hit out on the Sunday, and entries are still being taken right through the 11th of July next month.
The university's Student Association had threatened a mass demonstration, calling for support not just from the Newcastle campus but other unis as well. The numbers were down, but gay and lesbian spokespeople claimed the problem of prejudice is an issue which must be addressed.
And there's a lot of harassment as well, like just actually following people around saying, oh look, there's a poof, let's get him, and or there's a dyke, like, ew, yuck. And basically it even gets to where people say, oh, this person needs to be raped to cure them.
It's estimated up to 15% of students have had a homosexual relationship. While Newcastle University does have a gay and lesbian officer, that person doesn't have voting rights on the Student Representative Council, a say on how the campus is run. The decision to give those voting rights lies in the hands of one group. The University Council, a group of 20 people, including just one student representative, is meeting today to discuss the issue. A final decision may be months away. Late today it was confirmed more information was needed in regard to the Anti-Discrimination Act. The Vice-Chancellor, Keith Morgan, told students he had an open mind on the matter. 2 weeks ago, a university legislation committee had argued letting a gay and lesbian officer onto the Representative Council would open the floodgates to scores of so-called minority groups. Peter Ryan, NBN News. A man wearing a balaclava burst into the bookshop around 2:30 this afternoon. He produced what appeared to be a shortened firearm and ordered 2 women staff members to lie on the ground. After snatching a sum of money, the bandit fled the scene, joining an accomplice in a getaway vehicle which left the uni grounds along a road past the sports field. Police immediately began a search.
We lost sight of it in Ernest Street travelling south. We're not quite sure if it turned left in the...
Tonight, police called for any help from the public. The robber was wearing light overalls, the vehicle a white utility with a black vinyl cover over the tray. Any information should be given to Mayfield Police.